What's happening, folks? We're back for the next case in the Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective Volume 1, and I did a little research after we solved/prosecuted the previous case. There is a Volume 2. I never knew that back in the day, so maybe after we finish all 3 cases in this one, we can go on to Volume 2. In any case, let us proceed to, what is it, the something mistress, the Mystified Murderess. Okay. Well, I've got my notepad out, so I'm ready to take notes. Let us dive into case number 2.
Society burglar strikes again. Series of burglaries. 6 over the period from June 2nd to June 17th. On July 2nd, the 7th occurred at the home of Sir Sanford Leeds. Cleopatra tiara stolen, says. As in the other cases, no sign of extensive search by the thief, and only one piece of jewelry involved. Victims elsewhere at the time. Here's a complete list of the particulars, Holmes, if you'd care to read it.
I believe you'll find in the study.
How do you do, gentlemen? I am Gerald Locke.
Please be seated, Mr. Locke. How can we be of service?
3 days ago, Guy Clarendon was found murdered at Halliday's. It's preposterous, but Miss Frances Nolan has been charged and is being detained at the criminal court, Old Bailey.
Frances Nolan. Ah, yes. Sister of Loretta Nolan. Only surviving heirs of Sir Malcolm Nolan, founder of the Aberdeen Navigation Company.
I seem to recall that Sir Malcolm and Lady Nolan were killed when some lunatic threw a bomb into their carriage. Seems to me that later I heard something about it being a case of mistaken identity. Wasn't one of their little offspring in the carriage with them at the time?
Yes, it was Loretta, Frances's sister. She was only 4. Miraculously, she was uninjured.
Mr. Locke, I've heard that you are a suitor for Miss Frances Nolan's hand, are you not?
Yes.
And was it not also true that she was being courted by Guy Clarendon?
Unfortunately, yes.
Have you any idea why Frances Nolan was charged with the crime?
Well, she was discovered over the body with a pistol in her hand.
That would do it.
But you don't understand. Frances is totally incapable of murder, not even of a scoundrel such as Guy Clarendon.
Scoundrel? But he's from such blue blood. Also, if I'm not mistaken, he's an accomplished batsman for the West London Cricketers, a ranked fencer in international competition.
He was also a bit of a bounder, Watson.
What an understatement. Guy Clarendon was excessively fond of cards and strong drink. His father had all but disinherited him. I tried to tell Frances that Clarendon was no good, but to no avail. And now look at the mess she's in. Will you help?
Most certainly.
Well, alright, there were a lot of names and a lot of information in there, but if I've got this right, there's been a string of burglaries in high society, 6 of them in June, and then the 7th one was a robbery of Guy Clarendon, who is, and I quote, a bounder, and a gambler, and a drunk, and who was all but disinherited. And if I may, Watson, yes, we all know that people with blue blood who happen to be cricketers can't possibly be criminals, right? I said with a sarcastic look and a roll of the eyes. Nevertheless, we also know that the woman found hovering over the body with a gun in her hand was Miss Frances Nolan, who apparently this guy who came to hire Sherlock Holmes, Mr. Locke, he is her suitor, but she's been accused of murder. She was holding the gun. She has a younger sister, I think, Loretta Nolan, who survived a bomb attack on her parents. And I guess the family business was the Aberdeen Navigation Company, founded by, Malcolm Nolan? Right, so a lot of information right out of the gate. We have some time references, but let's begin by talking to our good friend, Mr. Lestrade. To which he would say, "Inspector, please."
Why even trouble yourself with this one, Holmes?
You believe Frances Nolan to be guilty?
guilty as a cat would swallow a canary.
And on what do you base that brilliant deduction?
Look, Frances Nolan claims not to have known that Clarendon was residing at Halliday's. Yet she proceeded directly to his room where she shot the bloke. She claims not to have owned a gun. Yet the gun found in her hand was purchased at S. Golf and the receipt had her name on it, for Christ's sake. No, that little lady will never see the light of day again.
Did someone drop a cabinet in the background there? But okay, so let me make note of this. The gun was purchased with a receipt in her name. Now, that doesn't mean that she purchased it. And fair to say, I don't know how old Loretta is these days, but, you know, she might have posed as her sister. But at the very least, the gun was in Frances's name. Though, also fair to say, even if Loretta had purchased it pretending to be her sister, that doesn't necessarily mean she did it either. But I suppose she would have motive, trying to keep this bounder and drunkard gambler and international fencer away from her sister. But I don't know if that bomb attack was supposed to be in recent times. Like, is the sister Loretta still a toddler, or is she now grown up? Let's just go down the list of these prominent people.
Well, Watson, will Ellis see us now?
Not likely, Holmes. He's on assignment in Istanbul.
Okay, fair enough. I wish him the best in Turkey.
I understand that Wilfred Robards is considering taking Miss Nolan's case. He might be able to help you. If you'd like, I can arrange an interview with Frances Nolan. She's being held downstairs, you know.
We might be able to help you, Miss Nolan, if you could just remember what happened that night in Mr. Clarendon's room.
Well, that's just the trouble. I can't remember anything except seeing Guy's body across the room and the pistol in my hand.
Where did you get the pistol?
I've no idea, though the police assure me it's mine. I didn't know Guy was at Halliday's. I've never even been there before. And why would I shoot him anyway? We loved each other.
There, Miss Nolan. Stiff upper lip.
Thank you.
Miss Nolan, what is the last thing you remember before the room at Halliday's?
Oh, hot cocoa in bed.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, well, every night before I retire, my maid, Grace, brings me a cup of hot cocoa.
How nice.
Yes.
And before that?
Well, before that, I dine with Dr. Trevelyan, as I do every Sunday evening. My sister, Loretta, is under his care. The doctor and I have become good friends over the years. He left at 10 o'clock, as he always does.
May I ask, where did you first meet Guy Clarendon?
The country estate of Cornelius Oldwine, in March. My sister, Loretta, was attending a party there. I suppose things got a bit out of hand because it seems she dived into a fountain. She caught pneumonia and I had to go and fetch her home. Guy was also at the estate, and that's where we met.
And he immediately began paying court to you?
Oh, heavens, no. Nobody seems to take much notice of me. I suppose that comes from having such a wildly attractive sister. That's why I was so surprised when he called a few weeks later. We began seeing a great deal of each other. We went on long carriage rides, had picnic lunches. It was all quite lovely. And then on the 5th of June, he declared his love for me and asked for my hand in marriage. I was so happy. I couldn't have killed him.
How do you explain your presence at Halliday's?
Well, I can't. It's just like the other 2 times.
You've had memory losses before.
Yes, twice in the past month. The first time I found myself atop a horse in Hyde Park, with no recollection of how I got there. The last thing I remember was having lunch with my sister Loretta. Then there I was, atop a chestnut mare.
How peculiar.
The funny thing is, I'm terrified of horses.
You mentioned there was a second time.
Yes, a few days later, I met with my solicitor, Hiram Davenport. Then the next thing I know, I'm at the Newgate Street station. I consulted my physician, Dr. Mason, and he was quite as baffled as I was.
One last question, if you will. What is your relationship with Gerald Locke?
Oh, Jerry, he's a dear old friend. Though I'm afraid we had a falling out of late. He said some very unkind words about Guy.
Yes, he did, and I'm gonna have to tell Mr. Locke that I think you're barking up the wrong tree. But okay, again, a lot of names. What I got there is that she's probably being poisoned or rather drugged, but it's hard to say. Like, she had, like, in one case she met with her sister beforehand, and indeed, her sister is clearly an adult and apparently, according to Francis, maybe seen as more attractive than her. But okay, so her maid had given her hot chocolate the night of the fateful murder when she suddenly was there holding the gun. But before that, she had had wine with someone. Was it Dr. Trevelyan? He was like something like that. Also, we heard the name Oldwine, something like that, who hosted the party where Francis met this bounder Guy Clarendon, ace fencer and quality cricketer. We also heard that her solicitor, Francis's solicitor, is called Davenport, and that she met him, I think, one of the other times when she had a blackout. Either way, we also know Dr. Mason is Francis's physician, so we'll pay him a visit if we can. But okay, so it's definitely, there's some nefarious things happening. She's been drugged, and maybe the first couple times were a test run, right? Like maybe they, drugged her, whoever did this, on her own estate, and then she found herself up on a chestnut mare, even though she doesn't normally take to horses and is not interested in horse riding. But yes, she clearly was fully into Guy Clarendon, who, if we are to believe Francis, maybe wasn't such a terrible guy, going on long carriage rides with her and was patient in terms of his courtship of her, so maybe Locke did not give us the right
the
story.
Clarendon murders look fairly open and shut, if you ask me. Not your typical murderers, I admit, but there you have it.
Okay, hold on, bro. One more time.
Well, the Clarendon murders look fairly open and shut, if you ask me. Not your typical murderers, I admit, but there you have it.
You're so helpful. Give me one moment. I'm not going away, but I want to make some notes and have some cross-referencing arrows here. Okay, so Okay, so, yes, Trevelyan, if that is the name, I don't think I heard it right. Oldewine, Davenport, Mason. We might try to go talk to other members of the Nolan family, although I guess the parents are no more. We'll see if we can talk to any of the Clarendons. Okay. But let's finish talking to... Again, when you shoot gaming videos, it's like the controller has a cord, the headset has a cord, or the headphones rather, my microphone has a cord, everything gets jumbled. Right. I'm not hearing anything. Okay. So I guess that means there's just nothing happening there. Fair enough.
You're quite sure the murder weapon was a small caliber pistol?
Quite. I'd also wager to say he'd been shot at very close range.
Ghastly.
Tell us, Sir Jasper, at what time did you receive the body?
Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
And how much time would you judge to have elapsed from the time of the murder?
Well, it's always difficult to be precise in these matters, but I'd venture to say he'd been dead anywhere from 4 to 10 hours.
Okay, so it happened in the morning. No later than, what did they say, 1 in the afternoon? So, yeah. No later than 9. And no earlier than 3, I guess.
I say, excuse me, Dr. Murray.
Hello. What? Oh, my, I must have dozed off. Ah, it's you, Whitson. And what are you doing with yourself
Whitson.
this afternoon? Or is it evening already? Have I missed my tea?
It's Watson, sir. We're looking into the Clarendon case, and we were wondering...
Clarendon! Ah, I just finished that report when I dozed off. Let me see. Number 301, I believe. Ah, yes. Here it is. Number 103. Clarendon, Guy. Not much, I'm afraid. A hole in the shirt where a small caliber bullet passed into the body. Extensive blood stains. Powder burns indicating a close-range shot. Ah, here's something interesting. On the lower part of the shirt, I found traces of alcohol. Wine, to be exact. Now, I have a good nose for this sort of thing, and I believe it to be an inferior quality Italian red.
Alright. We do know that on the night this happened, someone gave Frances a glass of wine, right? Now, that could be wine from Frances. It could also be wine from the actual murderer, which, I'm just assuming Frances didn't do it. If it was really so open and shut, then I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be a Sherlock Holmes case. But let's hear it one more time.
I say, excuse me, Dr. Murray.
Hello. What? Oh, my, I must have dozed off. Ah, it's you, Whitson. And what are you doing with yourself this afternoon? Or is it evening already? Have I missed my tea?
It's Watson, sir. We're looking into the Clarendon case, and we were wondering...
Clarendon! Ah, I just finished that report when I dozed off. Let me see. Number 301, I believe. Ah, yes. Here it is. Number 103, Clarendon, Guy. Not much, I'm afraid. A hole in the shirt where a small caliber bullet passed into the body. Extensive blood stains. Powder burns indicating a close-range shot. Ah, here's something interesting. On the lower part of the shirt, I found traces of alcohol. Wine, to be exact. Now, I have a good nose for this sort of thing, and I believe it to be an inferior quality Italian red.
So, if we have double confirmation now that the murderous shot was fired at extremely close range, powder burns on the shirt, but that would mean Frances would have gunpowder, like powder burns on her hand. I didn't hear anything about that. It feels like the physical evidence might not be so cut and dry.
Both Loretta Nolan and Guy Clarendon have had several complaints filed against them, although neither of them has ever been arrested. Both have been cited for public drunkenness. Likewise, both have been involved in some unusual pranks, but no one has ever pressed charges.
Okay, so Guy's hanging out with Loretta too, and they've been getting drunk together and pranking people together. So maybe Mr. Clarendon is indeed a bit of a cad, a bit of a bossa nova, and perhaps there was some sisterly rivalry for his affection, though we didn't hear anything about that from Frances, only that people thought her sister was attractive. But, okay, it definitely suggests the sister might have something to tell us, or indeed might be a more legitimate suspect. Lyingdale Pike, what you got to say, mate?
It appears as though Guy and Loretta, the terrible twins, will afflict us no more. Loretta must be desolate, what with the loss of a kindred spirit and fellow prankster. Prankster? Well, yes, my good fellow. I'll never forget the time Clarendon poured champagne down the front of Lady Leeds's new Paris gown for the sole purpose of Loretta's amusement.
I would think she must also be distraught at the loss of her lover, not to mention the imprisonment of her sister.
Well, I'm not sure about Loretta's feelings toward her sister, but I do know that Guy and Loretta were not lovers. Though outwardly they made an excellent couple. He, tall, handsome, and from a moneyed family, and she, beautiful, and an heiress in her own right. Yes, it would have been a match made in heaven. But it was a match made in far hotter regions, I suspect.
Frances claims that she and Clarendon were engaged to be married.
Well, that's hard to imagine him being who he is. Or was, as it were.
Why do you say that?
Well, Guy Clarendon was not at all a desirable sort. He'd all but been disowned by his own father for his compulsive gambling. The utter disregard for other people's money is probably what drew Clarendon and Loretta Nolan together in the first place. After all, she had managed to fritter away almost her entire fortune, unlike her sister Frances, who still had her inheritance, if not her honor, intact.
That explains it. What are you driving at, Holmes?
From all I've heard of Clarendon, I suspect his interest in Frances was directed toward her sizable bank account.
Okay, right. So he was probably more into Loretta the sister, who apparently had gone through all her money and thus has even more motive to take out the sister, though perhaps not so much about the money for her, but if her kindred spirit, Guy Clarendon, was showing affection, however disingenuous, toward her sister, she might have felt spurned and decided to offer her sister, number one, maybe to take over her sister's inheritance and to have money again, but also to eliminate competition for her affection for Mr. Clarendon. But either way, yeah, we got to talk to the sister because she's looking like a pretty good suspect at this point. Although I suspect there's going to be more twists. It feels like they wouldn't serve us up a softball pitch only having gone through the main regulars of Mr. Holmes. Can I just say that Porky Shinwell is a ridiculous name?
Sure, I remember Clarendon. He and his lady friend used to stop in here from time to time.
Which one?
Usually on their way to Kilgore's gaming parlor or coming back from it. Rumor has it, Clarendon was into Kilgore for a sizable sum.
Do you happen to know how much?
£7,000 was the figure I heard. Got to the point Kilgore wouldn't allow him in the door. Clarendon made a big fuss till Gus Bullock stepped in. Clarendon backed down pretty quick. Don't blame him none. Nobody in their right mind would want to mess with the likes of Gus.
Do you think Bullock was involved in the murder?
Nothing you could tell me about that bloke would surprise me. Anyway, Kilgore makes it clear to Clarendon that he wants his money. Then, a month or so later, Clarendon comes in all smiles, and he and Kilgore getting on like chums. Figure Clarendon must have paid him back. Then, Calvin Leach steps into the picture.
Now, who's Calvin Leach?
Leach deals in what you might call stolen property. Square dealer, too. Give you one half the value of the article.
What does Leach have to do with Clarendon and Kilgore?
Usually nothing at all. But there it is. Leach, Kilgore, and Clarendon meeting late at night just as thick as thieves. The meetings continued on right up to, well, the night before Clarendon's death.
Very interesting.
Now, we've been standing here jawing, and I don't recall hearing anybody order nothing. What'll it be, mate?
Sherry dry. But okay, so I'm beginning to suspect that Clarendon, this Leach character, and maybe Bullock, Gus Bullock, who works as muscle for Kilgore at his gaming parlor, may have actually committed the first 6 robberies and were... In fact, maybe Kilgore... Not Kilgore. Maybe Bullock and Clarendon were committing the robberies, and Leach was their fence. Leach is the person who was able to sell these valuable jewelry artifacts on the black market, and through that, Clarendon was able to pay back Kilgore and get in his good graces again at the gambling parlor. So we'll definitely have to talk to Kilgore, Bullock, and or Leach. And it now seems like maybe Clarendon was killed because he was, I guess, a liability. You know, he might build up a debt again, whatever. So they used him to steal and to get money to pay off his debt, whatever. But then perhaps Mr. Bullock and Mr. Kilgore said, well, you know, we can keep all of this ourselves if we get rid of Mr. Clarendon. All right, one more place for the regulars.
It seems Sir Malcolm left his entire estate to his wife Margaret. If she should precede him in death...
Or accompany him, as proved to be the case.
Yes. Then the estate was to be equally divided between his 2 daughters, Frances and Loretta. The estate included a 1/3 share in the Aberdeen Navigation Company.
Alright, so yeah, basically the family money had gone to the 2 daughters, but Loretta burned through all of hers and perhaps was hoping to get her hands on Frances's share. Whoops. Alright, let's go back to... These are all going to be the same, right? Like... I mean, if this is happening in real time... Funerals, blah, blah, blah... Care to know, gent, gray coat? That's back in December, so that wouldn't have been part of a robbery. Are these the same ones as before? Because if they're all the same, that would mean that I've actually read all of these. Yeah, I think these are the ones that we read before. Hold on, there was a free thinking journal. Maybe these aren't. I don't remember that one. Oh, wait. A wet nurse is needed. All right. Go away. Go away. All right, let's look up some of these people in the directory. Let's go talk to Mr. Bullock if we can. Oh, Clarendon, yes. But first, let's talk to Gus. We heard you're a bit of a thug.
Who are you and what do you want?
Dr. John Watson, sir. I wondered if you might be kind enough to answer a few questions.
About what?
Guy Clarendon.
That welching little weasel, what about him?
He's been murdered.
Ah! I'd say he got what he deserved. And if you don't clear out of here in 2 seconds, so will you.
Oh, quite. Ta-ta.
A bit snivelly of you, Watson. But alright, so if Clarendon was the one committing the robberies, it doesn't seem like Gus would have been there with him. Now, of course, that could have been an act. He could have been dismissing any association with him as a way to evade suspicion, but taking him at his lowbrow word, he didn't want anything to do with Mr. Clarendon. All right, let's go talk to Leach, this guy who supposedly fences stolen goods.
What did you learn of Calvin Leach?
I think Walkie Shinwell said it all.
Did you ask Leach about Clarendon?
Yes.
What did he say, Watson?
Oh, yes, of course. He said he'd never heard of him.
Well, I feel like that's a lie. If, I forget which one of the regulars it was, but one of the regulars was saying they were seen drinking in Good Buddies at Kilgore's gaming parlor. Speaking of which, let's go talk to Mr. Kilgore. Claude.
Any luck?
Yes and no.
I beg your pardon.
Yes, Kilgore has met Clarendon once or twice, But no, he insists he's never heard of Calvin Leach.
And you believed him?
Could we at least wait till Watson answers? But okay, so everyone's kind of like, no, I don't know that guy, and if I do know him, only once or twice, and I didn't like him anyway, so... Alright. Let's talk to Mason, Francis's doctor. See what he says about her drugged...
Tell us, Dr. Mason, have you determined the cause of Francis Nolan's blackouts?
It's the strangest thing, really. But I examined her thoroughly and found nothing physically wrong. She could not recall receiving a bump in the head, nor did she complain of dizziness. All I could suggest that was perhaps she was overtired and prescribed rest. It remains a complete mystery to me.
Alright, so if she is being drugged, it's something that leaves her system pretty quickly, while also leaving her with amnesia of whatever it was. Alright, Mr. Oldewine, something like that, hosted the party where Francis met her sister's kindred spirit, Mr. Clarendon.
Poor old guy. He could be such fun. I'll never forget what a jolly good time we had the night he climbed the fountain at my country estate.
How acrobatic.
You don't know the half of it. It all started with Loretta. It seemed those things always did. Anyway, someone dared her to jump into the fountain. It being March and quite chilly, no one actually thought she would. She did them on better. She jumped straight in and swam to the center, where I have this absolutely dreadful sculpture of a lot of fat water nymphs. It rises some 20 or 30 feet in the air. She climbed it, though. The woman must be part monkey. Then she dove in. After that, it seemed to be the thing to do, so everybody took the plunge. I was the only other one who actually climbed to the top of the fountain, though. By the end of the weekend, half my guests came down with sneezes. Loretta caught pneumonia.
Okay, so I'm thinking Guy and Loretta were the burglars, and they were the ones who stole the jewelry. They did get in touch with Leach, who fenced their goods, allowing him to pay back Kilgore. And I guess Bullock, again, could be slightly lying, although maybe he was not really part of it. Maybe he was just the enforcer. So for a while his boss was saying, don't let this Clarendon guy come in, he owes us money. And then eventually, no, he's fine, you can let him in. But okay, so yeah, both Guy and Loretta are good climbers, meaning they could be very good cat burglars if the situation presented itself. Let's talk to Davenport. Didn't we hear that he's Francis's lawyer, but also was he the one who gave her wine on the night where she was drugged?
So, sorry to have kept you waiting, gentlemen. I assume you are inquiring about the Nolan girls. Yes, we are. How long have you been their solicitor, Mr. Davenport? Actually, in practice, I am serving that function only for Francis. Loretta has not sought a word of my advice since she came of age and was able legally to get her hands on her trust fund. Had Loretta the presence of mind to follow my good counsel, I'm certain she would be in a far better financial situation today.
Do you recall a meeting with Miss Francis last month when she blacked out?
Well, I did have a very odd meeting with both Miss Francis and Miss Loretta several weeks ago.
How so?
Well, I wouldn't say she blacked out as such, but she did leave rather unexpectedly. We were in the middle of our discussion when I was called out of the office. I was gone not more than 20 minutes. When I returned, Miss Francis had a very strange look in her eyes. She mumbled something and promptly left. Miss Loretta laughed that very disturbing laugh of hers and departed as well.
I like how he left them waiting for 20 minutes and like, oh, I couldn't believe it. Like, you know, they left right after. It's like, dude, you left for 20 minutes. But okay, so again, Loretta looking more and more guilty, like she may be the one poisoning her sister. And again, maybe the first couple times were trial runs, and then the third time she framed her. I am also thinking that she probably was the one who bought the pistol but tried to pass herself off as her sister, and so got the receipt for the gun in Francis's name. Oops. Alright, who else do we have to talk to? We've talked to Mason, Davenport, Oldewine, Trevelyan, something like that? Trevelyan. I think he was the one who gave her the wine, or was there on the night that the murder happened.
Doctor, we understand that you dined with Frances Nolan on the evening of July 1st.
Yes, that is correct. We dine every Sunday. Her sister Loretta has been under my care for some 10 years. First at the Mesmer Braid Institute and then in private practice.
Without breaching physician-patient protocol, would you mind telling us the nature of her illness?
She never quite recovered from the overwhelming trauma of watching her parents being blown to bits.
I quite understand.
As is often the case with young orphans, they tend to create fantasies about their parents. Miss Loretta Nolan truly believes that her father was the King of England, making her a princess.
Do you think her unconventional behavior stems from that fantasy?
Absolutely. As a princess, she believes she can do no wrong. I must say that she's worlds apart from her sister Frances.
Do you know Frances Nolan well?
Yes, rather. Through my treatment of her sister, I've known her for years. Let me say that it is difficult to believe that Miss Frances is capable of murder. She has a quiet, unassuming personality. An act of such direct confrontation would not be at all in keeping with her character.
Were Loretta and Frances close?
I know without a doubt that Miss Frances loves and cares for her sister almost as a parent would a child. Miss Loretta, well, she loves her sister as much as she is capable of love.
Yep. Looking guilty and also maybe a bit delusional, Loretta. Is there anyone... I mean, I guess we could try to go talk to Loretta, although I'm guessing they're not going to let us do that directly. If she is a suspect, it'd be too easy.
Enter and be recognized. Oh, you don't wish to play Her Majesty, eh? Very well.
You do not seem particularly disturbed by the recent turn of events, Miss Nolan.
Each of us grieves in his own way, Mr. Holmes.
It must be difficult for you to face the possibility that your own sister may have killed your dearest chum.
Guy was fun to be with. And as for Frances, I love her dearly, but, well, it's funny to think Miss Right and Proper has finally gotten herself into a bit of a jam.
Miss Nolan, may I ask, when was the last time you saw Guy Clarendon?
Let me think. I believe it was the Richmond's party last Thursday. Yes, I'm sure of it. God, we did cut it up a bit there.
And after the party?
We did not go home together, if that's what you're implying. That would have broken Frances's heart. She was head over heels for Guy, you know. She had some foolish notion that he was going to marry her. Not that someone like him ever would. But I do recall her saying, and it might have been the night of his death, that she was going to have a talk with him about their future.
Sorry, my chamber orchestra just decided to chime in. But okay, so yeah, maybe she's not quite as crazy. Just, you know, she likes being silly and playing roles and so on. But she did give us another name, the Richmonds, who hosted a party, which according to Loretta, which is obviously not all that reliable, but the last time she spent time with her sister was at the Richmonds party. Notice how I'm a bit more efficient this time around. I kind of have a sense for the way this game works now. You just get names, you investigate.
At first, I thought it must have been one of the servants. After all, there was no sign of a search, and nothing else was disturbed.
Oh?
Did you question them? Thoroughly, but none of them would admit a thing. It really wasn't until Hardinge and Bessie Durth were robbed, and the newspapers referred to us as victims of the society burglar, that I was certain it wasn't any of my staff. By the way, can you recommend a good housekeeper and valet?
Oh, I saw there were some personal ads, people looking for carriage drivers and so on, but no, I don't. Okay, so I guess maybe not even cat burglaring. I guess maybe Guy was stealing things at these high society parties he was going to, and then maybe they didn't notice until later. What was it, like Hardage or something? Is that okay?
My wife and I were guests at a small dinner party at the home of Otis Richmond. We arrived home sometime after midnight, and as my wife was putting away her finery, she noticed the bracelet was missing from her jewelry box, and we summoned the police immediately.
The servants were questioned?
Oh, they've all been with us for a number of years, and I haven't the slightest suspicion about them. But yes, the police did question them thoroughly. All were in bed asleep by the time we arrived home, and none heard anything untoward.
And nothing else was taken?
Surprisingly not.
Yet you are positive that the bracelet has not simply been misplaced?
No, my wife actually put it on while she was preparing for the evening, and then she decided against it. I saw her put it back in the box.
Where does she keep the box?
In her dressing table, there's a special compartment in the side of it. The box fits in rather neatly.
Which sounds like something you'd have to know was there. And again, if her wife didn't, or if his wife didn't actually wear it to the party at the Richmonds, then I guess Guy and or whoever else is robbing these pieces of jewelry would not have been able to do it at the party. They'd have to do it while these people were gone. Do we have any more names here? I mean, I guess we could go to the house of Frances. Obviously, we've already talked to her, but let's do this.
Tell us, who was at home on the evening of the 1st?
Well, just Miss Frances, sir. Oh, yes, of course, and Dr. Trevelyan.
What time did the doctor take his leave?
Oh, let me think. It must have been 10 o'clock, because that's what time he always leaves.
What did Miss Frances do after her guest left?
What she does every evening, sir. Well, she asked for a cup of hot cocoa, which I brought her straight away. Then she read for a bit by the fire. Later, when I went up to bed, I passed her room and the light went out.
What time would that have been?
Oh, let me see. Oh, I know it was 11:30 because the clock chimed. Then I went to sleep. Later, I was awakened in the middle of the night, right in the midst of the most peculiar dream. You see, I was barefoot and trying to buy a pair of shoes,
As fascinating as all this is, could we get back to what it was that awakened you?
Oh, yes, of course. Well, it was something that I heard, or thought I heard. I listened for a bit, but that was the end of it, so I went to sleep again. Later, I awoke at 7:30. I always wake up at 7:30, except, of course, on Sundays when I sleep until 8. As usual, I began to prepare Miss Frances's breakfast. I had no sooner gotten to the kitchen when I heard the front door open and close. Well, I ran to the front window and peeked out, and there was Miss Frances walking down the street.
And why do you deem that so unusual?
Well, she never leaves before she's eaten one of my currant buns.
Okay. So again, this Dr. Trevelyan, I do wonder, it seems a little suspicious that he was the only person who seemingly could have drugged her, because I can't imagine it was the maid with the cocoa and her being such a, kind of, what's the right word? Yeah, she's just kind of in her own world, just talking and, not really getting a sense for the larger context. But, okay, so yeah, Trevelyan, Loretta. Let's go. Is Locke in here? I'll talk to Locke.
We have just a few more questions for you, Mr. Locke, if you don't mind.
Of course not. Anything to help Francis.
We were wondering if you could shed some light on Miss Frances' relationship with Guy Clarendon.
He was only after her money. I tried to tell Frances as much, but she wouldn't hear of it. We had a bit of a row over it. I've been quite upset about the whole thing.
Upset enough to commit murder?
What an outrageous accusation.
There's only a question, Mr. Locke.
Preposterous. Besides, I've been on holiday all week, playing cribbage at the annual tournament up at Leeds.
Sounds positively riveting.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, cribbage and Leeds. Sign me up. Okay, so Locke was telling it as it seemingly is. Like, hey, Francis, you know, I'm into you because you're great, but Guy, the person you think you're going to marry, he doesn't really want you, he just wants your money, and in fact, he's more into your sister. Is there anybody else here? I think we've gone to all the people we've heard mentioned by name. We did talk to Kilgore, right? I think we did. I don't remember... Or there was no one there? Is that right?
Any luck? Yes and no.
I beg your pardon.
Yes, Kilgore has met Clarendon once or twice.
Oh, but he denied.
But no, he insists he's never heard of Calvin Leach.
Right.
And you believed him?
Okay, yeah. Well, I think we'll do this one in two parts. I feel like we've gotten a really good start on this case. Much more efficient than with the Mummy's Curse case. But let me... What were the other papers? Where were the... I forget. No Aberdeen Shipping Company.
What did you learn, Watson?
Not a thing, Ho.
Yeah, they're not home. Or they're not answering the door. You know, the Bank of England, they just close randomly. But, alright. I guess we can talk to the Clarendon family. Let's go see whatever is at Clarendon's house.
This is a difficult thing for a man to say about his only son. But Guy was a wastrel and a ne'er-do-well. Only a short month or so ago, I gave him £5,000 and told him that was the last he'd see of my money. I'd hoped the shock would bring the boy around, make him realize he had to settle down, instead of wasting his life on gambling and gallivanting around with that wild woman.
Which wild woman was that?
Loretta Nolan, of course.
You mentioned gambling, Sir Francis. Have you any idea with whom he gambled or who might have wanted to kill him?
I wish I did. He told us nothing. He only came around when he needed money. And when I told him there'd be no more, we never saw him. Just about broke his mother's heart. There, Gertie. We still have one another.
I've something you ought to know about Master Guy. One morning, rather early, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I heard a terrible clatter downstairs, so I came down to investigate. It was Master Guy just coming home. He was in a terrible state, all battered and bruised, with a fresh cut on his forehead. I asked him who did it to him, and he wouldn't say. I think he was afraid for his life.
I'm going to assume that was Gus Bollock who gave him a bollocking and said, you better get money, which maybe sent him to his thievery. But yeah, I'm guessing that's what that was. We just talked to Sir Francis, right? Like, that's who we're going to... This is going to be the same one, right?
This is a difficult thing.
Okay. And then I guess the guy that we talked to moments later was the butler of the Clarendon house. But who was the other one? Frank? Who's Frank Clarendon?
Pity. It appears that no one is in.
However, can you tell, Holmes?
There is a sign on the door that says, "We are gone for the day."
How terribly observant, Holmes.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
No, there we go. We had to get one of those in. But alright. I mean, it's all there. We've got everything we need. Let's get a save here. Yeah, it's not mistress. We can forget. I made one of those in advance, but we can just call it the murderess, which is what it actually is. And indeed, that seems to hint that the killer is a woman. Looking at you, Loretta. And we talked to Davenport. I don't think the embassies would be relevant this time around. Don't think the hotels, at least doesn't jump out at me. We talked to Hardinge, didn't we? That was the guy whose wife had her necklace or whatever stolen.
Sorry, Holmes. No information here.
And we already talked to the editor of the Times, didn't we?
Well, Watson, will Alice see us now?
Not likely, Holmes. He's on assignment in
Istanbul. We already talked to her being held at the Old Bailey. We talked to Old Wine Cornelius. Talked to Langdale Pike. Anything at the records office? That's where we heard about the will? Is that right?
Both Loretta Nolan and Guy Clarendon have had several complaints filed against them, although neither of them has ever been arrested. Both have been cited for public drunkenness. Likewise, both have been involved in some unusual pranks, but no one has ever pressed charges.
All right. We did hear that before. Oh, okay. I guess we could go check the criminology lab in the investigations department, although maybe the investigations department is Lestrade and maybe the criminology lab is the guy who was sleeping and called him Dr. Whiston or whatever.
Their father, Sir Malcolm, left them each a 1/6 share. Several years ago, as soon as she came of age, Miss Loretta divested herself of her stock.
Okay, so again, we hear that Loretta burned through her money very quickly after getting it once she became an adult, and thus would be in need of some money, and maybe had greater motivation to off her sister. But hold on, let's go check these two.
Why even trouble?
Yep, that's Lestrade, and the other guy will be the sleeping guy, right? Or the other, you know, the criminology laboratory will be the sleeping guy, I believe. Yep. Yep. Underhill Bilbo. It's so funny, man. Vipers Unlimited. Yipes. What was the Yardley Zip Pudding Shop? I think the last thing we'll do. Crumbly Zwieback. That is a name. Crumbly Zwieback. But yeah, let's go to the pudding shop. Probably not going to be open, but you know, it's worth a chance.
How unfortunate. There's not a soul in sight.
Pity.
Yeah, I wanted some pudding. But okay, I'm going to get a save, and then I don't think we would have done enough. Like, I think we'll have to talk to more people. But let's just see if it would let us go to court yet. Oh shit, they're saying we have enough.
So sorry. We haven't done a thorough enough job of investigating this case quite yet.
Oh, okay.
Let's continue our pursuit.
Okay. I was like, I'd be surprised if it said that we could. But okay, again, I think we got a really good start on this case. I mean, I feel like Leach, Loretta, and oddly enough, the deceased guy are the most suspicious people. But again, Dr. Trevelyan, maybe? Seems like, again, he'd been seeing... We talked to a couple of doctors, right? Like, we talked to one of them who had said Loretta has this kind of delusion, and that he had talked to Francis because of his work with Loretta. Let me just see what Trevelyan says again.
Doctor, we understand that you dined with Francis Nolan on the evening of July 1st.
Yes, that is correct. We dine every Sunday. Her sister Loretta has been under my care for some 10 years. First at the Mesmer Braid Institute and then in private practice.
Without breaching physician-patient protocol, would you mind telling us the nature of her illness?
She never quite recovered from the overwhelming trauma of watching her parents being blown to bits.
I quite understand.
As is often the case with young orphans, they tend to create fantasies about their parents. Miss Loretta Nolan truly believes that her father was the King of England, making her a princess.
Do you think her unconventional behavior stems from that fantasy?
Absolutely. As a princess, she believes she can do no wrong. I must say that she's worlds apart from her sister Frances.
Do you know Frances Nolan well?
Yes, rather. Through my treatment of her sister, I've known her for years.
Let me say that it is difficult to believe that Miss Francis is capable of murder. She has a quiet, unassuming personality. An act of such direct confrontation would not be at all in keeping with her character.
Were Loretta and Francis close?
I know without a doubt that Miss Francis loves and cares for her sister almost as a parent would a child. Miss Loretta, well, she loves her sister as much as she is capable of love.
Yep, alright. Who was the one, though, that was with... Was it Dr. Mason who was with Francis on the night that she... On that fateful night?
Tell us, Dr. Mason, have you determined the cause of Francis Nolan's blackouts?
Oh, no, it was the
It's
solicitor.
the strangest thing, really.
That's right.
But I examined her thoroughly and found nothing physically wrong. She could not recall receiving a bump in the head, nor did she complain of dizziness. All I could suggest that was perhaps she was overtired and prescribed rest. It remains a complete mystery to me.
But right, it was the lawyer who had been with her on the night that eventually Guy passed away. And we know that Francis left early on the morning. Yeah, and that's right. She could have... Francis left the morning that Guy died, unusually, and we do know that Guy died sometime between 3 and 9 a.m., and the maid is saying that Francis left at like 7 in the morning or something, which, again, is suspicious, but we still don't think it was actually Francis who did it. Let's see what Davenport has to say, and then we'll call it for this one.
So, sorry to have kept you waiting, gentlemen. I assume you are inquiring about the Nolan girls.
Yes, we are. How long have you been their solicitor, Mr. Davenport?
Actually, in practice, I am serving that function only for Francis. Loretta has not sought a word of my advice since she came of age and was able legally to get her hands on her trust fund. Had Loretta the presence of mind to follow my good counsel, I'm certain she would be in a far better financial situation today.
Do you recall a meeting with Miss Francis last month when she blacked out?
Well, I did have a very odd meeting with both Miss Francis and Miss Loretta several weeks ago.
How so?
Well, I wouldn't say she blacked out as such, but she did leave rather unexpectedly. We were in the middle of our discussion when I was called out of the office. I was gone not more than 20 minutes. When I returned, Miss Francis had a very strange look in her eyes. She mumbled something and promptly left. Miss Loretta laughed that very disturbing laugh of hers and departed as well.
Yep. I suspect Loretta. But yeah, there's pieces of this we still got to put together. But a very good start to this case, I would say. Let's get one more save. Okay. Well, we have done our initial investigative work, and we will continue next time, and if all goes the way it seems like it should, I imagine we will solve this case in the second installment. And that was the case for the first time, right? It was like 2 installments, though this time it might be a bit snappier, which would be nice. And then we'll be on to the third case, and then yes, there is a part 2, and I will make sure to have that at the ready. So yeah, we've got presumably, you know, the rest of this case and maybe 4 more cases if the second game is like the first one and has 3 cases. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm enjoying this much more this time around. It feels less difficult and opaque. It feels like I have a sense for how to go about the detective work. So yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know who your suspects are. Let me know if there's any bit of interview testimony that we got that maybe I didn't key in on that might be worth investigating. And if you have any ideas for what we might find in the papers. It feels like last time I was relying on the papers a lot more heavily, but I feel like we have now talked to everyone who we've heard their names, so maybe it's time to go into the papers next time. In any case, let me know what you think, give me your suspicions, and I will talk to you next time. Peace.